everyone, 76 Patriot here, and guys, of course, yesterday we had massive news that President Biden is dropping out. So in today's video, I want to turn my attention to talking a bit about Kamala Harris, who is the presumptive, at this point, seemingly the presumptive kind of de facto nominee, if you will, for the Democratic Party at this point in time. And so we can see right here, Harris campaign locks in delegates and Democratic state chair support, sources say. Now, of course, it had been speculated for quite some time if indeed Biden was to drop out or even be replaced, he would, or Harris certainly would be possibly the most likely contender for that spot. It's certainly not uncommon to have the VP, kind of the natural successor, if you will. And so this is absolutely huge. Already, literally, a day, barely a day, not even a day after the decision, we can see Harris's campaign officials and allies made hundreds of phone calls on Sunday, locking in delegates' support for her presidential nomination ahead of the DNC while seeking to block any would-be challengers, multiple sources said. So we can see there's a lot of negotiating kind of behind the scenes in the Democratic Party, as one would expect. And it's pretty interesting. Several participants of this call yesterday said Harris has the chair's full support, which may make it a fairly seamless transition. I don't expect much opposition to her at the DNC. And it's pretty interesting. She obviously has received a number of kind of crucial, not crucial, but a number of powerful, you got to argue, endorsements. Basically, a ton of governors, a ton of senators, a lot of leading rank-and-file Democrats. Interestingly enough, Obama has not actually said anything yet as of this time. We'll see what trick he has up his sleeves. But regardless, this is big. So it appears at this point it's officially Trump v. Harris. I mean, it's not set in stone yet, but it's pretty interesting. Yeah, even before Biden stepped aside, Harris began to emerge as the consensus pick. And already, Tennessee became the first to pledge its 70 delegates to the vice president. And this article is actually several hours old today. So who knows? I believe there's actually several states that have since then. And it's pretty interesting. Again, I'm not exactly sure if the Dems have rid themselves of their electability problem, though. I'll get back to that in just one moment. However, we can see there's a lot of a lot of updates on here, and we can see who would be her running mate if she wins the nomination. This would be quite an interesting thing. We could talk about Roy Cooper, Josh Shapiro. These are people, Andy Bashir, people that are being talked about, and all what they have in common is they're all governors and they're all kind of these fake moderate grifters. So we'll see if that is the case that she taps, if she indeed wins the nomination, which it looks like at this point she probably will. Oh yeah, we can see some states already did this or pledged their delegates. It looks like New Hampshire, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. So yeah, already she's locking up numerous states ahead of the DNC. So unless some kind of a crazy, unforeseen scenario happens, which is possible in today's politics, but barring that, it appears that at least on paper she is, for all intents and purposes, totally set at this point to be the Democratic nominee this year. And so, if that's the case, it is really going to be quite interesting because people have been speculating Trump v. Harris for a long time. But the crazy thing is, and I saw this kind of on X, and I forget exactly who said it. I want to always give credit where credit is due, but basically it was like, how dare the Democrats lecture us on being, quote-unquote, anti-democratic, considering that they're not even going to have a primary. They're basically going to select Harris, or whoever, in this, I believe it will be Harris, at the convention, because they basically are throwing away millions of votes for Biden. Democrat voters in the primary wanted Biden. He dropped out. They should have some kind of a Democratic mini primary, if you will, to adhere to their name, and be quote unquote democratic. But they won't, because they don't operate that way. So they're probably just going to shoehorn Harris in, and that's going to be that, which is really a shame. And I think a lot of people need to talk about this more. Like, hey, you guys are the party that are doing all kinds of tricks and things that are not democratic. But it's pretty interesting. I believe Harris also had her first speech today, kind of following her presumptive kind of current leading standing in the race. And here's one thing I was kind of balked at when I first saw it. Reportedly, the campaign has raised 81 million over the past 24 hours, which is a massive amount. However, I don't think it's good to buy too much into that and think, oh, all of a sudden she's this electoral juggernaut that's raking in all these funds. I think that's going to slow down. I think it's just kind of an initial big boost, if you will. Just like there's a lot of glee in the Democratic Party, but I think it's going to be short-lived. We'll have to see. But again, there's a lot of updates coming in. Obviously, yeah, she gave her first speech. She said, it's my intention to go out and earn this nomination and to win. So, of course, nothing about, earning votes or anything, just the delegates, which is, again, a shame, even for the Democrats, but whatever. They obviously don't care even about their voters at this point. And it's pretty interesting. Biden officially made his first remarks, it looks like, since he's contracted COVID. And he said, it was the right thing to do. I'm watching you, kid. I love you. That is a bizarre thing to say, but that is Joe Biden. But regardless, we can see, she said, we have 106 days until election day, and at that time we have a lot of hard work to do. Yeah, you actually do, because here's the thing. Not only does she have to, campaign and kind of advertise herself, just because of name recognition, doesn't mean that people will vote for you. She really has to kind of show what is, the Harris magic, if you will. What is going to make people come out to the ballot box for her? What are her accomplishments? Things like that. Not only does she have to do that and convince, the voting public at large, she also has to deal with kind of all the finagling, to get the nomination. And in some states, there are, maybe legal challenges to even getting her name on the ballot. Heck, there's going to be challenges in some of these states with getting Biden's name on the ballot, just because of Democratic, foolishness, if you will. I know Ohio and Alabama, for example, happened. But regardless, this is big. We're getting updates, I guess, right now. I don't know. But basically, you can see, this is crazy. So we talk about electability, and of course, it is way too early. This news just dropped, so it is way too early to look at any polls and be like, oh, yep, candidate X is up or candidate X is down. But we have seen over months in the past of kind of theoretical polling, month after month, the occasional poll that does Trump v. Harris. Trump is leading generally by just as much as as he would against Biden, if not more. So I might have had a bit of a word salad there. What I mean to say is Trump is beating Harris by just as much, in many cases more, than he would in a matchup against Biden in these polls, which is not unsurprising. Harris literally has the charisma of I don't know what, like zero. She is uncharismatic, a horrible orator, and just not personable. Plus, her track record is disgraceful, and she doesn't really have anything to run on. So, all that said, we'll see what kind of front she tries to kind of market to the public. But here are several polls. Again, big grain of salt, because this has just happened, this stuff. But Quinnipiac, very, very left-wing pollster, massively overestimates Democrats often, has Trump up by 4 with third parties in the ballot, and up by 2. And then Forbes also dropped a poll, has Trump up by 6, and we can see Georgia, Trump's up by 5. I actually, again, this is too early to tell, but I wouldn't doubt if this was accurate. Some kind of overall meshing of these results in reality. Because the problem is, again, back to what I was saying earlier, it's not like all of a sudden Dems booted, or they got rid of their most worrisome electability issues in the person of Joe Biden. Sure, it might be, a bit of a more appealing package to some people. You could say Harris is, a person of color. She's a woman. She's substantially younger, not significantly, but a decent, 18 years, I believe, younger. Oh no, more than that. 20, 21 years younger than Biden. But regardless, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden, there might be a bump for a little bit, but it doesn't mean that she's this juggernaut. And I don't think she is at all. She has polled terrible against Trump in the past. In fact, some had even said, I remember I had even thought this, it would be a dream scenario. This was months and months and months ago, probably like a year ago. If Trump would theoretically be running against Harris, that would be a dream ticket because he would just demolish her. And we'll see if that happens. But again, guys, this is a developing situation. A lot of crazy stuff is going on. Who could have saw this coming? I guess a lot of people did. I did a little bit. But this is just really turning out to see these events happening in real time is kind of crazy, guys. So it's a wild ride. Stay tuned for any more content that's coming your way regarding the state of the presidential race in general. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day.